Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Smells Like. I'm Josh. So good to see you. This is Fragrances of the Week. This week, all about the House of Chanel, legendary house. One of my favorites. Currently, I would say my favorite. If anybody's been watching my videos lately, you'll not be surprised that I decided to do all Chanel all this week because I really have only been able, it's like I can't talk about anything else when it comes to fragrance right now other than Chanel. So let's jump right into it with Sunday. Sundays are for sampling, sampling Sunday. So the Chanel sample that I decided to try out this time is from Les Exclusifs de Chanel. It's number 22, the Eau de Parfum, a classic aldehydic bright fragrance. Some compare it a little bit to Chanel number 5 just because it has this bright aldehydes as well as some of the florals that Chanel number 5 also has. This is just really nice, bright, easy to wear. I feel like this would be really nice fragrance to wear in the spring. I've heard people say that this is kind of like what a cloud would smell like, just like a sunny day, bright, fluffy cloud. And I get what they're saying it is. It's ethereal, it's bright, there's a lot of light in it. And I think the aldehydes are what lend that, and that's part of what I love so much about Chanel fragrances. Sort of light, bright, it can be a little fresh, it can be kind of soapy, it can be clean. It's an interesting fragrance ingredient. So that's number 22. And number 22 got me into that aldehydic mode. And sticking with the sampling thing, I really am still kind of getting to know Chanel number 5. You know, it's easy to be convinced by all the years and years of marketing that it's a classic women's fragrance. And then for me, myself, my grandmother wore Chanel number 5 my whole life. And so I always, I make that connection. And when I smell Chanel number 5, it reminds me of her. And so it can be difficult then for men, and just for anyone who's smelled it on other people to kind of separate the scent from those, those pairings in our minds. Anyway, I've been getting to know Chanel number 5 on me, how it works on me, and just as a scent, doing away with my preconceptions. So Sunday night, I decided to sample number 5, the Eau de Toilette. Every time I wear number 5, whether it's the EDT or the EDP, I like it more and more, and it really is growing on me, and it's in the same kind of family as number 22, so I thought that would be fitting then for sampling Sunday. The EDT is a little bit animalic. It has civet in it, which is, almost like a little bit pissy, and so it's got some kind of weird, dirty stuff going on, but it's also fresh. It has warmth, it has brightness, it's interesting. And that's what I love about fragrance, is something that's interesting, that takes me somewhere. And number 5 definitely does that. Still getting to know it. Definitely going to be future videos talking about number 5. But let's keep rolling here. On Monday, I went with one of the gems of my collection currently. Can't stop talking about this one lately and can't stop wearing it. It's Sycamore from Les Exclusifs de Chanel. This is based around the note of vetiver. It's got woods. It can be dry and woodsy. It can also be kind of grassy. It can also be earthy. It can also be smoky. Jacques Polge, in-house perfumer for years and years, until fairly recently when his son Olivier Polge took over the reins. Wow, he really created a masterpiece with Sycamore. This is the EDP. I haven't tried the EDT, so I don't know the differences, but this really does it for me. It's so classy and smooth, but it's also got all this character going on underneath the surface. Absolutely love this. It's bright, but also kind of dark at times. And also I feel like, you know, different times throughout the day when I'm wearing it, I'll get different facets of it, almost like a jewel. As you turn it in the light, you get different facets of the jewel, you know, coming out in the light. So I really feel like Sycamore is a fragrance that does that, and I love fragrances that do that. So that was on Monday. Tuesday, I went with a new acquisition. This was a blind buy just because I found a really great deal on one of the Facebook fragrance groups. This is Pour Monsieur Eau de Toilette, which according to Chanel is the same formula going all the way back to the 1950s version. This was the first masculine marketed fragrance from Chanel, and the only masculine fragrance that would have actually been kind of signed off on by Coco Chanel herself, if I understand all that correctly. This kind of has that eau de cologne style, that classic citrus and soapy neroli. It's got some oak moss in it, which is really nice. You know, you don't get oak moss very much anymore because some regulations recently changed. They're not allowed to use very much oak moss at all. You're allowed to use a little bit apparently in designer releases, but this stuff is just so classy. It really does remind me of just like a classic gentleman. This was love at first smell. I put this on and I fell in love with it. I just like covered myself in it. This is the kind of light, like I said, that eau de cologne style fragrance that you can really just bathe yourself in and really enjoy. Although I do feel like this lasts a good bit longer than other eau de colognes in its category. Really enjoying that. Gonna enjoy it even more when the weather gets warmer this spring and summer. This has made me extremely curious about the modern version, the Eau de Parfum, which is a different take and a reworking of this scent DNA, and it's the only one that's available now. This version is no longer available. There was one that came after this that was like an eau de toilette concentrate. It's no longer available, so this is twice removed from the current version, which is an eau de parfum, which is apparently quite different than this. So really curious to try that. Let me know in the comments what you think about Pour Monsieur and if you tried the different versions. Really getting curious about that, so let me know in the comments. On Wednesday, kept the momentum going with another one of my favorite fragrances that I own in my collection. Tried this for the first time just this year, just last fall, at the beginning of the fall, and I fell absolutely in love with it. One of my favorite fragrances in my collection. It's Egoist, not to be confused with Platinum Egoist. This comes to us all the way back in 1990. This was created by Jacques Polge. It's based around sandalwood, other dark rich woods like mahogany. There's also kind of a leathery nuance. It's got a little bit of like a musty, slightly sweet thing that might be coming from tobacco. It's kind of hard to tell where that's coming from. There's also coriander, which gives it this kind of spicy yet citric touch. There is some citrus like mandarin orange. It also has those Chanel aldehydes. You get a big blast of those bright aldehydes in the opening. This is a total masterpiece. So in love with it. Full review of this on my channel where I kind of go into the history of how this came about. Egoist on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, and I saw Jeremy Fragrance did his top 10 fragrances for life, his personal top 10 for life, and Egoist made the list. I gained so much respect for him in doing that, which sticks to a theory that I have that really behind the scenes, I think Jeremy is a total fragrance connoisseur. Like, I think he actually does know his stuff and actually does appreciate things the way that some of us do, but he's got his whole, you know, thing that he does in a certain way and certain audience that he's going for. And so, yeah, I don't think he can always talk about fragrances like Egoist, but it was interesting to see the difference between the ones he usually talks about and his own personal favorite that he would keep, you know, his top 10 for life. I thought that was interesting. A lot of respect there. On Thursday, I had a really long day with lots of appointments all morning, and then I had to work all night down late into the evening. So just a super long day. I just needed something easy to wear, but that would also give me energy and just be nice to wear during the day. I was a little bit dressed up. And one of my fragrances that I always reach for in those kind of situations is Bleu de Chanel. Depending on the season, sometimes I'll use the EDT, sometimes I'll use the EDP. Lately though, in the winter, the fall and winter, I have been obsessed with the Pure Parfum. This was created by Olivier Polge, the fairly recent new in-house perfumer to Chanel, son of Jacques Polge, who was the in-house perfumer for decades. And I heard that father and son kind of collaborated on this, although Olivier Polge really kind of took it in a new direction, but with plenty of consultation from his father, who really, created a masterpiece in the DNA in the first place. This adds some real sandalwood to the mix, part of why it's so expensive, some kind of crackling rich cedar, a nice bright lemon zest. I really, really love this stuff. And it lasts a good 12, 13, 14 hours on me. I know other people have said they don't get that. I do. I've got a glowing review of this on my channel if you want to check it out. Hear more about Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Friday, I had kind of a similar situation to Thursday. I had to work a long day. I was around a lot of people and I had some meetings and things like that, being in front of people. And so I went with another crowd pleaser that I reach for in those situations, Chanel Allure Homme, another 90s gem created for men by Jacques Polge, kind of from the same era as Egoist. This really laid the foundation for this trend today in men's designers, which is this tonka bean, vanillic, kind of warm, slightly sweet, but also fresh at the same time. Fragrances like Parfums de Marly's Layton, a niche fragrance that gets a lot of play in the fragrance community, and one that I really like, really draws its inspiration from Allure Homme. It's really clear that that's where they're getting their inspiration from, and that fragrance and many fragrances like it. Total stunner of a mass appealing fragrance with a lot more character, kind of in the same category as a lot of other like designer mass appealing kind of cologne-y fragrances, but with a lot more character than its counterparts. So that's Allure Homme. On Friday night, got home from a long day at work. I took a shower and I decided to continue my journey, I guess, into the world of number 5. And so after my shower on Friday night, I put on number 5, the Modern Eau de Parfum. So this really, when people talk about Chanel number 5 these days, they're probably talking about the Modern Eau de Parfum. This is definitely the fragrance that my grandmother wore, that I saw have so many memories of. But when I put this on my skin, it becomes a totally different experience. Like I said, if I just kind of open my mind to it as a fragrance, I think of it as just like a kind of a niche. Think of number 5 as a niche fragrance that you're trying for the first time, and keep an open mind, and you may find, like me, that there's a lot to appreciate in this. I really am liking this more and more. It's becoming a love, but regardless, I think that, as a serious collector and as a big fan of Chanel, I've got to have number 5 in my collection. And so kind of a bonus one that I threw in there to wear on Friday night, just to round things out. Finally, today, Saturday, I put an exclamation point on this great week of fragrances from Chanel with another one from Les Exclusifs de Chanel. It's Coromandel. Coromandel is a masterpiece in my opinion. It is up there with Sycamore as one of my favorite fragrances that I've ever worn. Based around this patchouli accord, it can be bright. It can also be really, really dark. It can be sultry and sexy, almost kind of like dirty, raunchy at times. It's really can be earthy, like literally like earth, like dirt at times. That patchouli can get really earthy at times in a good way. Smells like dirt in a good way. Oh, it's so good. So opulent. Opulent is the word. Classy. And this one, like Sycamore, really is like a gem that as you're wearing it, you know, as you turn the gem, the light refracts in different ways and you get different nuances, different faces to it. And I really get that with Coromandel, probably even more so than with Sycamore. I get a lot of different faces and phases to Coromandel. Wearing it today, it just, man, every time I get a whiff of it throughout the day, it just makes me feel so good. And especially on a cold day. So it is freezing cold where I live in the Midwestern United States. There was literally an ice storm during the day. So there's a thick sheet of ice surrounding my house and all the roads. And now it's snowing. We're going to about 6 inches of snow on top of the ice. So I'm in my sweatsuit. I'm watching movies. I'm wearing Coromandel. I'm hanging out with my family. Feeling good. Great way to cap off the week then with Coromandel. That's my fragrances of the week. Hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear in the comments your thoughts, your favorites from the House of Chanel. Also, I'd love to hear what you wore this week, different ones that you enjoyed. As always, if you'd like to do this again sometime, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you right here at the Smells Like Fragrance channel for another video next time. Thanks so much for watching.